Welcome, everybody, to Couch Potato Theater, The Mummy, 1999. My name is Kevin, and I'm going to be your host. This is what we're talking about right here. I got the Ultimate Edition, the shiny one, with Stephen Sommers' name on it. There you go. Really excited. This movie is celebrating its 25th anniversary, and I've got some fellow mummies or Imhoteps, whatever you want to say, that's going to be joining us tonight. So, again, my name is Kevin, but I'd like to first of all welcome my brother from another mother, co-founder of the Fandom Podcast Network. I'd like to welcome Mr. Kyle Hoyer. What's up? Kyle Wagner, sorry.
I was going to say, who am I? Two very important things about this movie, Mr. Reitzel.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I created balloons even, so that's how important it is.
I don't know how you're doing the balloons on the video, dude.
It's magic. One, the first important lesson is, I don't care what movie you're in, never ever read from the Book of the Dead.
This is true. It's true.
Number two, Kevin, you are podcasting from the wrong side of the river.
Mr. Wagner, it's so good to have you, and I hope you're ready to call out for your mummies. I'm going to make a lot of stupid mummy jokes. I just know it. But you know what?
I apologize in advance if I have to kick him off the podcast, ladies and gentlemen.
We are talking about 1999 The Mummy, and I got the cool little mummy collection here. But there's someone who threw their hand up first when they said we were going to be doing The Mummy. And I'd like to welcome our co-host from the Union Federation podcast, where we discuss both Star Trek and the Orville. Hey, Starter, what's going on?
I hate bugs.
Yeah,
guys, I hate bugs. Just kidding.
Bugs especially.
Yeah, people eating bugs, definitely, for sure, are definitely gross. So yeah, no, I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, you threw your hand up first for that. You're like, yep, we got to talk about this movie. So
I did. I was like, we need to talk about this, and you guys were like, yeah, we're planning on it. And I'm like, well, I want to be there. I think I had just recently watched it because again, it was on. I think.
Well, hold on. Hold on to that thought, because I'm going to ask you that question in a second.
Okay.
So hold on to that. But we have one more to bring to the table here. One more that did go to the right side of the river here. And of course, we have our co-host of Time Warp here on the Fandom Podcast Network, the queen of movie foo. Please welcome Lacey Adderhold, who is wearing a very funny t-shirt. And if you want to know what it says, you got to watch the video. I love it.
Hello.
How are you, Lacey? Good to see you.
I'm doing great. How are you guys? I'm ready for some podcast fun.
So yeah, I see you're there in the nice theater room there. So that's cool.
Yes, well, that's around the corner. Yes.
Well, this, of course, is Couch Potato Theater, where The Mummy, as of this recording, is celebrating its 25th anniversary. We're really excited to talk about this. Of course, the Fandom Podcast Network. We did want to tease some things that we've done recently here for Couch Potato Theater. We did Payback, 1999. We also did a wonderful Wimbledon, where we celebrated its 20th anniversary, and we were celebrating Valentine's Day for that. We also did a crossover with Hair Metal Podcast. We did a Couch Potato Theater for Rockstar, the 2001 movie with Wahlberg. We also did Time Cop, Van Damme's film from 94. And we also had a really, really good Couch Potato Theater for Roadhouse. Came out in 89, also celebrating anniversary. We had a special guest and co-star of Roadhouse, Mr. Anthony DeLonges. And we just dropped The Losers, the great 2010 action comedy that just came out right now on the Fandom Podcast Network. So make sure that is happening. Kyle, we got something else coming up. You want to tease that?
We're going to go on a little bit of the Wayback Machine here, because at a time where, you had to have the cool pads on your bike. You had to have the mag wheels. You had to be rad.
Yes.
We're going to be doing rad on the Couch Potato Theater here soon. I am working on that show, killer soundtrack, great BMX in the 80s. We're going to talk about the BMX phenomenon in the 80s, and we can even pull a Yo Adrian for this movie, Kevin. Polly Shire is in it.
Yes. Looking forward to that. That's going to be fun. Well, we are discussing The Mummy, and we got a lot to get to, guys. Got some great posters here if you're watching the video. Again, if you're listening to this podcast, please make sure you check us out on YouTube, because we're just showing all these fun slides. going to happen with the new edition of Couch Potato Theater, because we got new categories, and this is the second Couch Potato Theater that we're using these new categories. So let's go ahead and get right into it here. We're going to hit the IMDb possibly vague and not always spot on plot description. And Haley, you volunteered to read that for us.
Of course. An English librarian called Evelyn Carnahan becomes interested in starting an archaeological dig at the ancient city of Hamunaptra. She gains the help of Rick O'Connell after saving him from his death. What Evelyn, her brother Jonathan, and Rick are unaware of is that another group of explorers are interested in the same dig. Unfortunately for everyone, this group ends up unleashing a curse which had been laid upon the dead priest Imhotep. Now the mummy is awake, and it's going to take a lot more than guns to send him back to where he came from.
Dun dun dun. Well done. Thank you very much for that. Okay, so just a quick little information here on the movie. Release date was May 7th, 1999. Running time was about 125 minutes with a budget of $80 million. Made a total of $417 million in its first theatrical run. And the filming dates were May 4th, 1998 to August 29th, 1998. Now, this is interesting, guys. The film is credited with establishing the first weekend of May as the start of the new summer season for Hollywood blockbusters. This trend was further cemented by Gladiator in 2000, Spider-Man in 2002, and the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which has released a film on that weekend nearly every year since Iron Man 2008. In the exception of this year. So if you think about it, May was the new summer release for these. And what's also interesting too, is that changed with the Fast and Furious films. They started pushing back to early April, and that's when the summer movie season kind of started again with those. So the first thing I want to ask you guys, and kind of go back into the Way Machine, but let me know right now of how did you watch this recently? And also, where were you when you first watched it? Haley, I want to start with you because I know that you really wanted to do this film. So tell me when and where and how and now.
Yeah. So pretty sure, well, I recently just watched it again today on Amazon Prime. But a couple months ago when I talked about this and asked about doing this movie, it popped up on, I think, one of the Pluto movie channels. And I was like, oh, The Mummy. I haven't watched this in a while. So we sat down and watched it. And I forgot how fun it was. So I really was just like, we need to do this for Couch Potato Theater. And then I heard it was the anniversary. So I was like, yeah, we definitely need to do this. And geez, why is this movie so old? So unfair. And then I do remember watching this in the movie theater. I don't remember if I watched it like the weekend it came out, but it was the 90s. I definitely saw a lot more movies in the 90s, especially at this point. I was in high school. I'd go to movies with my friends. And so I'm trying to remember if I saw it like exactly when, because it would have been either at our Paramount movie theater, which at the time was our largest movie theater in the town I grew up in, which is where I live now currently, a whole whopping 4 screens. And yes, I know for a lot of you, you're like, 4 screens, that's tiny. This is in comparison to the other theaters we had in town. We had a 1-screen theater that had a balcony, which is actually really, really cool.
Gotcha.
And then we had another theater downtown that had 2 screens. And we did have a couple other older theaters that had like 3 or 4 screens, but this one was the new theater at the time.
Gotcha.
So I don't remember if it was that or if I saw it at our Regal, which also opened the same year this movie came out, but I just don't remember.
All right, Lacey, how did you watch this recently, and when and where did you first see it?
Well, recently, I had, where am I? Okay. So I recently watched it today.
On 4K, very nice. 4K. Look at that collection of Mummy Universe. Love that.
Yeah, it's Scorpion King 1 through 5, and then Mummy 1, 2, 3, and then the 4Ks, and then the trilogy that's kind of it's a 3-pack. So this is like my travel edition.
That's the one I have right here. Yeah, look, hold on. I want to show mine here too. Got it right there. Actually, it's all 4. It also includes the Scorpion King. This version.
Gotcha.
Here, So cool. Do you remember where you first saw it?
Yes. I was working at Suncoast back in the day, and all of the whole group of us, all of our peeps at Suncoast, I believe we went across the street to the Galleria Theater, which is no longer there. And it was, I want to say it was a 12-plex. And I think my best friend and I watched it probably 4 times that weekend.
Wow.
Because we worked at Suncoast, and then all of our friends worked at movie theaters, and we always had like passes and stuff, and we could get in free. So, yeah.
That's awesome. Kyle, how did you watch it recently, and when did you first see it?
Well, I just watched it a few hours ago on digital 4K on my Apple TV, so that was nice. And then I originally saw it. It was actually kind of it's funny because I actually saw it on a kind of a whim. I was out with a couple of buddies. We were in Brandon, Florida, which is about 40 minutes from where I live in Florida, and they have a huge AMC theater there. And we were like, it was hot. Let's go in somewhere cool. We had forgotten The Mummy came out, and we saw The Mummy up there, and we weren't super excited about it because we were just like, we don't know. But then one of the most fun movies I had that summer. It was a great time, pleasant, shocking surprise, and to this day, easily one of my favorite go-to rewatchable films.
Agreed. Now, in 1999, early 1999, I had moved to Virginia. I was working for Decipher that made the Star Wars, Star Trek, and Lord of the Rings card games. And we were promoting all Episode 1 games. And I remember there was a Star Wars celebration, the first one in Denver. I was somewhere on the road when I saw this. I don't remember where I was, but I was somewhere on the road because I was, whenever I had a chance, wherever I was, if I had a moment that evening, I would go see the newest movies. And I do remember it. I just don't remember it's because I was continuously on the move. But recently I did watch it. I watched The Mummy on Blu-ray, and then I watched it again on digital. But I did marathon the entire Mummy Ultimate Collection, which is the 3 films, including the Scorpion King. And I will admit, just because for comparison, I did watch the Tom Cruise Mummy. We'll talk about that later if there's time. But guys, let's get into the main movie discussion here. And I have a little bit of related trivia here. So British chat show host Jonathan Ross described the film as Raiders of the Lost Ark meets The Terminator. Stephen Sommers described his vision of the film as a kind of Indiana Jones or Jason and the Argonauts, with the mummy as a creature giving the hero a hard time. It's been so long since I've seen Jason and the Argonauts, but that makes complete sense. But I wanted to kind of give us a discussion point here in the beginning, guys, because I found a really good article by Matthew Jackson that actually came out earlier this year as of this recording in 2024. It came out in May because they had released in limited areas of The Mummy. You could go to the theater and see it recently this year to celebrate its 25th anniversary. There wasn't a lot of showings, but they were out there. But this article says Universal Pictures' The Mummy, now streaming on Peacock, apparently, was not the biggest film of '99 or the second biggest or the third biggest. Stephen Sommers' remake of the classic Marvel Monsters film of the same name arrived amidst a huge year for film that included Star Wars Episode 1, The Sixth Sense, Toy Story 2. By the time the dust settled in 1999, Sommers' film had placed 6th on the annual box office charts there. So, when you start thinking about it, what made this movie stand out than a lot of those other big ones? And so what's cool about it, the article goes on saying the Mummy that's allowed to endure in a way that other 90s blockbusters simply haven't. Why, this film has remained a comforting piece of nostalgia for some, a thrilling new discovery for others, and a bona fide crowd pleaser long after its visual effects have been surpassed and its stars have moved on to other things. The answer is both simple and surprisingly complex. Before I read on, guys, I want to get your kind of thoughts on why do you think this movie has endured? Why is it special to you? Kyle, I'm going to let you go first, buddy. What you got?
It's because it's a couple factors, but the biggest one is this is just a fun movie. This movie is just fun. And I'm going to say this. It is truly, to me, the only movie of its kind that has captured the spirit of Raiders of the Lost Ark and the Indiana Jones films that has been made since those films have been made. There's just something about this movie that has that special quality. It's completely rewatchable. You can jump in it at any time. It's an amazing Brendan Fraser performance. Everybody in it is good, from Brendan Fraser to John Hannon to Rachel Weisz to just Arnold Vosloo as the mummy himself. It's so good. It's so well done. There's no slow points in this movie. It really, I don't want to call it a perfect movie because there's a few little things about it, but it is just a fun, rewatchable, pop it on anytime film, and you're good to go.
That's a great point. And I agree with you too about the points that you made too. I think one of the other important things about this movie is not only is it fun, it's funny. Everyone kind of has a moment with humor in this. And one of the other things that he brought up in this article is that there's one final ingredient worth considering here, especially with the chemistry of the two main cast members. When you're talking about the mummy's immortality, and that's the way Sommers pushes its adventure set pieces without ever losing the film's timeliness. By the film's third act, things seem to go off the rails a bit as Rick and Evie fight their way through an expansive tomb while Imhotep tries to complete the ritual that has this whole purpose of resurrection. There are stunt performers in mummy costumes and CGI mummy warriors, flesh-eating scarabs, and killer death traps galore, all exploding on the screen at once. All of these elements and more, The Mummy as a film at the center of a deliberate, careful, and surprisingly graceful balancing act, one that helps it stand out even among a nostalgia-hungry public that always tries to elevate some past hit to modern classic status. It exists to make us happy and is still doing that 25 years later. Haley, I wanted you to kind of chime in on this here because obviously I know you have a nostalgia for this as well.
Yeah, I do. Well, and I think there's something about this movie where it was a little different, for the time. I mean, you mentioned the Star Wars Phantom Menace and Sixth Sense. Like, I didn't see any of those movies that came out that year that were mentioned in this article. I remember wanting to see this one because I thought it looked fun and exciting. I also am big on timepieces, so I love that this is the 1920s and this exploration, and rather than it just being okay, here's an inept woman, she's a librarian and she's smart and she's capable, and I thought that was wonderful, even though she fumbles and messes up and reads from the book. But I like it. I think it's just fun.
What about you, Lacey?
I think that just the ones that you mentioned, between Phantom Menace and Toy Story 2, I think that the love for those has died down because they are part of series where they aren't necessarily the best ones in the series. Out of all the Toy Story films, Toy Story 2 is my third favorite. Out of all the Star Wars films, 1, 2, and 3 don't really rank. Well,
right.
1 and 2. So I think that that's part of it. The Sixth Sense, you have M. Night Shyamalan. I always butcher his last name. M. Night Shyamalan, and he's been kind of hit or miss. And so I think that people get annoyed with directors if if they have a few, it's not fair. The movie's still fantastic, but M. Night Shyamalan's movies are built around like a huge reveal. And once you have that reveal, rewatching it once or twice to see the clues that you missed is one.
It takes out the rewatchability of it. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
so
see what you mean.
Going over and over is maybe not the way, unless you're showing it to other people. So I think that The Mummy, you've got, first of all, top to bottom, soup to nuts, the hottest cast on the planet. Like every person in this film is just insanely attractive. Like
we'll touch on that. Trust me.
The direction was Stephen Sommers. He had a few. I think wasn't this his second film after Deep Rising, which was phenomenal and hilarious.
I got points on that, and we'll touch on that. Yeah.
He reuses some of his some of his actors. Brendan Fraser was breaking out of his, George of the Jungle, like shirtless kind of situation and showing that he actually had like amazing talent. He had several films before that where people just wanted to go and look at how beautiful he was, which he is. But this was like one of his first big like action pieces where he was showing that he could carry a movie.
Yeah.
And, I think that the writing was fantastic. The dialogue, I think the timing, the actors had great timing. I think it's just that combination of magic that you can only get, one out of, 10,000 times.
Good point. And it's interesting. It's what's fun about this movie is that it touches so many different chords for so many reasons. And I think you nailed it, Kyle. That I think this is the first adventure film that really felt like an Indiana Jones film. That love that we get, the locations that we go, all of the characters having moments, and also having great chemistry between the two main actors as well. We'll touch on that a little bit. But Kyle, I wanted to ask you about something because this is kind of in your neighborhood. I went on this. I vaguely remember it. I need to go on it more. I don't know if it still exists. Is the Mummy ride there? It's now. Is it in Universal Studios? Is that where it's at? If I remember.
Yeah,
correctly?
it's in the Universal Studios part of Universal Studios Florida, because you also have the Islands of Adventure part, but it's there. It's actually pretty close to where Harry Potter is.
The 2004 Universal Studio theme parks, Hollywood and Orlando, opened their Revenge of the Mummy ride based on both this movie and The Mummy Returns. The ride became so popular, the lines would stretch into the main park, with riders waiting in hours in the hot California and or Florida sun. Tell me about your experience with this, because it's been a while. I don't remember it well.
It's an indoor coaster, so you're not going to have like loops and everything like that, but it's dark. They've got the walk through into the coaster, like everything at Universal, is just fantastic, with going through like the tomb and everything like that. You get on the ride, and there's a point where you kind of go up, and then it takes you backwards. And you're backward for a while, and then you're forward for a while. But it's one of those great rides where it really encompasses things. I think the ride is slightly different in California than it is in Florida. I think there's some different aspects to it, but it is a great ride. And if you're a fan of the Mummy movie, it's a good ride. And the nice thing about it is it's not so intensive a coaster that you can bring your kids on it, and they may not freak out. Or if you have somebody who's maybe not the biggest coaster fan, I think they could handle this.
Lacey, have you been on this?
I have. I've been on both the California and Florida versions of it.
Which one did you like better?
Well, I did the California one first, and it was like right after it came out. So that kind of, I feel like I liked that one better because it was like so new, and it was like I got to ride it like really soon after it came out. But I've ridden the one in Florida more often just because I'm closer. So it's kind of
Gotcha. Is it still working? Is it still there?
Oh yeah, it's still there.
Okay.
Yeah, it was there as of like 2 years ago, and I don't think they've taken it out yet. It's one of the more popular rides still at the park.
I don't know if it's still in California though. I'm not sure.
Gotcha. Yeah, I got to look into that because I remember the one. I went to the one in Florida. I have not been to the California one. Go figure, because I'm in California. But I had to mention that because I know it was popular. Guys, next we got some reviews of this film. IMDb rating, give it a 7.1 out of 10. Rotten Tomatoes holds an approval of 62% with an audience score of 75%. Cinema Score gave it a B out of the A to F scale. Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times gave the film a positive review, writing, quote, "There is hardly a thing I can say in its favor except that I was cheered by nearly every minute. I cannot argue for the script, the direction, the acting, or even the mummy, but I can say that I was not bored, and sometimes I was unreasonably pleased." Roger, just did it suck or not, dude? Come on.
Not a good day for Roger.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, totally. So, Entertainment Weekly and New York Times concurred with the sentiment that the film was a breezy crowd pleaser. And David Hunter of the Hollywood Reporter wrote that all the actors managed to hold their own amid the special effects, although he felt Vosloo, the mummy, was largely wasted after Imhotep regenerates and the screenplay gives him little to do. So there you go.
I think that's my new phrase, unreasonably pleased.
Yeah.
I'm right there with you. I am. Yes, absolutely.
Reasonably pleased.
All right, let's get into some trivia here, guys. This is fun. So, trivia little highlight here, and this hits home with me a little bit, and I'll explain why. This is the highlight trivia. On January 24th, 2023, during a double feature showing of The Mummy and The Mummy Returns in London, and this is the Prince Charles Theatre in Leicester Square, there in London. Guess what? Brendan Fraser showed up, kind of in costume. If you see the pictures up here, you'll see what I'm talking about, to surprise everyone. And you can actually watch this video on YouTube, and I did. It was great. They did not expect this. And he went up there and he gave his thoughts on it and didn't realize what type of movie it was while they were filming it. It was really, really sweet. And the reason why this holds a special moment for me is that there's a picture here on YouTube. This was where my wife and I had our first date in London. In 2016, we went to this theater to go see the 30th anniversary of Aliens. And there's a picture of the crowd there, and I can actually see the seats we were sitting in.
Nice. Hey.
Just a couple quotes from him during this. He says, the actor humbly told the crowd, "Thank you. I first started seeing films right across the street. I saw Star Wars in 1977. And it changed my life. It made me want to be in movies. I'm proud to stand before you tonight because this is a film that is made in Britain, as you should know that. It was at Shepperton. We also shot at Morocco, and even the second one too. Be proud." And there's a big cheer. Thank you, everyone, for being here. We had no idea what kind of movie we were making when we shot this. I didn't know if it was a drama or a comedy or a straight-ahead action, romance, horror picture. All the above, no idea, but it turned out great. So thought I'd share that with you guys. I thought that was a lot of fun there. I got a little bit more trivia here as well. Production had official support of the Moroccan army, and the cast members had kidnapping insurance taken out on them. A fact Stephen Sommers, the director, disclosed to the cast only after shooting had finished. And Brendan Fraser almost died.
Jeez.
Brendan Fraser nearly died during a scene where his character was hanged. Rachel Weisz remembered. She said, quote, "Fraser stopped breathing and had to be resuscitated. Brendan Fraser did the hanging scene for real and passed out during filming. According to him, Stephen Sommers' only direction was look good, don't lie, shove, action." And as you alluded to earlier, oh yes, Kyle.
Kevin, I hate to have interrupt. I had real lifing just kicked in. I got to go go to work to answer an alarm that's going off.
Oh, you do you, man. All right.
I just real quick want to say, Mummy is a fantastic film. It's a film for all ages. I just want to hit on a couple of things real quick. The effects hold up, especially on the Mummy itself, to this day. They are solid. They are strong. Brendan Fraser should have been a much bigger action star from this movie, and there was a niche for him, and they didn't take the opportunity to do it. John Hannon, I know Lacey will agree with me on this. One of my favorite actors out there right now, and he is so wonderful in this role. And just a great movie all around, and it even has a Star Trek Admiral in it. So
yes, we'll get into that.
So
Kyle, go ahead. I know you're on that call there, so go ahead and do what you have to do. Thank you for joining us in the beginning, man.
Yeah,
I
apologize, guys. Right? I apologize to the listeners. Thank you so much, guys. Love you guys.
All right, man. See you later. All right, still a little bit more trivia here for you guys. So Lacey, as I was mentioning, Brendan Fraser was cast due to the success of George of the Jungle. Stephen Sommers also commented he felt Fraser fit to the Errol Flynn swashbuckling character he had envisioned perfectly. I don't know about you guys, but I think he nailed it. Wouldn't you say, Lacey?
Absolutely. I think because he did some, younger stuff where he was a teen, and then he had the kind of the beefcake era. And this was really just, guns out, ready to go. Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah. So the white nightgown that Evelyn wore when the ship was attacked became transparent when it got wet and had to be digitally painted white during post-production so the film could keep its PG-13 rating. And the library... Yeah, right.
Every woman on the planet knows that. Everybody who's ever had or seen a white bathing suit at the beach. Yeah.
The library disaster was done in one take. It would have taken an entire day to reshoot if a mistake had been made. And I thought of you, Haley, with this trivia here because, of course, Oded Fehr, who is in, of course, Star Trek Discovery, the Medjai were originally supposed to be tattooed from head to toe, but Stephen Sommers vetoed it because he thought Oded Fehr was too good looking to be covered up. This was Oded's first big screen role.
He's
Haley,
not
your
wrong.
comment?
Yeah. Yeah. So no, he's definitely not wrong. I know that O'Connell is supposed to be kind of the one that everybody's attracted to and stuff, but no. I was definitely not there for that. So,
I hear you.
yeah.
Well, we're
yeah.
gonna touch on that. I got something coming up with that. So, but let's go ahead and get into our new Couch Potato Theater categories. Let's get into our favorite scenes and quotes, let's. I have a couple of quotes that I thought was great. I like that. One of my favorite moments was with Evelyn and Rick, and Evelyn goes, "Look, I may not be an explorer, an adventurer, or a treasure seeker gunfighter, Mr. O'Connell, but I am proud of what I am." Yeah, and what is that? I am a librarian. I just love that line. And Evelyn preparing to open up the sarcophagus. "Oh, I've dreamt about this since I was a little girl." Rick, you dream about dead guys? Do you guys have any favorite quotes and or scenes up here on the pictures? I did, of course, put in the scene of Evelyn getting ready to knock over the library scene. Almost every action scene in the tombs are a good one. I love the boat scene. And of course, I love when the cat comes into play. Lacey, I'm going to start with you.
Okay, the first one for me is the it looks like you're on the wrong side of the river. That's fantastic. I think that Kevin J, he is he's like an unsung hero in this film. He was so funny and his timing is so amazing.
Who are you referring to? I'm sorry.
Kevin J. O'Connell. Connor.
Oh yeah, who played Benny? Yes.
Yeah, Benny. The scene where he's picking all the different all the different charms and trying to like pray and all the different, and when he finally becomes like friends or Renfield in essence.
Yep.
For the mummy, that's absolutely hilarious. I love the very first scene in the desert with Rick running, and then with where he gets chased by the sand.
Yeah.
You just see him sort of like jumping. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Apparently that was done by burying bowling balls and yanking them across so that the sand so he had to watch the ground and make sure he didn't get ankled.
By the way, I did find in some trivia that Benny, the actor, the camel he was riding, did not like him at all. So
right? Yeah. That was talked about in the commentary as well.
Haley, what about you? You got some favorite lines and or scenes in the film?
Yeah. I love when they go to Winston and are talking to him about getting him to fly. And he's like, "By Jove, do you think so?" When he's told that, he might not live. And he's like, "Really?" Because he wants to be off, and dead with all his comrades.
Yeah.
It's sad, but it's just so cute.
And we also get a quicksand scene in that part too.
It's very British, though. It's just very, very British. And when he turns around, he's like, "I'm not just rocks," and you're just like, oh. And also, that's Dr. Bombay from Bewitched.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Like love him. Fantastic.
Yeah. I think that is, you've already listed some of mine, and I was totally going to pick up my cat because she came over and be like, "Look what I got." But
yeah, the cat being shown to Imhotep was great. I love that.
I love the fight scene with the mummified priests. And I think one of my favorites, because I grew up watching, granted I watched the Munsters more than I watched the Addams Family, but as the hand is crawling towards the sword.
Yes.
And it makes me think of Thing from the Addams Family. And I love that. I think it's so funny. And it's great because, it's serious. O'Connell screams at the three guard mummies, and they scream back, and he's like, "Yeah, never mind, I changed, that nope." But it's so interesting, like I forget every time I watch this movie how funny it also really is. It's got a lot of really great, well-placed humor to it. So but those fight scenes I think are just great. The sounds that they make.
You mean this yelling scene I'm showing up here? Like, ah!
Yep.
Yeah. If you're you gotta watch the slides. Yes, Lacey.
John Hannah like some of his comedy, because it's so understated, some of those lines that he just sort of drops as they're running through the scenes, like he's so funny and so like his timing is just like
he was a scene stealer.
He
John
really
in this
was.
film is fantastic. And
Yeah.
I was so happy he came back for the other films, and he's crucial to this, if you ask me. What the reasons why
Absolutely.
this movie is successful. So yeah, great point, guys.
I also like the one more thing.
Yeah, please.
The prison scene when O'Connell's gonna be hung. Omid, I'm gonna butcher his last name, Jalili. He was hilarious. He's like,
Yes.
500, 25%.
That guy was funny.
Nice.
Let's get into the cast discussion here, guys. First of all, I want to start off with Stephen Sommers, our director here. And you touched on it earlier, Lacey. I want to mention some of the stuff that he's worked on. He did Odd Thomas back in 2013. He did one of my guilty pleasures, G.I. Joe Rise of Cobra, which came out in 2009, and also had a Brendan Fraser cameo in it that I'm sure was, of course, because he had worked together with Brendan on these films. He also did Van Helsing, and he also directed one of my films that my wife introduced me to in the last few years that I'd never seen. That is Deep Rising, and the 94 version of The Jungle Book. And he also did Huck Finn in 93 and a horror film called Terror Eyes in 89 and Catch Me If You Can. It looks like a comedy came out in the 80s, 89. That's what it was. So that's Mr. Stephen Sommers. He's been a little busy here, but let's go ahead and get into the main cast and crew here. We got Brendan Fraser, of course, as Rick O'Connell. And I have a 1999 comparison to recent comparison of what some of our actors look like here. I also have a picture on Twitter here from Classic Throwback, where you get Patricia Velasquez and Arnold Vosloo from The Mummy. They were obviously at an event in 2024 where they were pictured together. And they show side by side what their characters look like in the original film as well. But I want to get you guys' thoughts on the cast. Any other people in the cast you want to talk about, or if you want to mention the main crew as well. Let's start with you, Haley.
I always like Eric Avari. Anytime I see him in something, his characters are always really great. So, like Charlie Wilson.
Stargate is where I first remember him. Yes. Yeah.
Stargate. Yeah. He, was in Independence Day, Babylon 5. He did some episodes of JAG because I loved JAG back in the day in the 90s, NCIS. So he's always one where I always am very excited when he's on screen. And then again, I mentioned the warden, Omid Jalili.
Yep, Warden Gad Hassan.
Yep. He was in, I don't know if you guys saw the Nutcracker in the Four Realms. Like, I love the Nutcracker Ballet. It's one of my favorite things. That movie was really good. He was in Sex and the City 2, and then Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End. Casanova, Gladiator, and Notting Hill. His characters are always just kind of these really interesting ones that have like a really goofy side, and his voice is just really memorable, and I just laugh every single time he has a scene. So
Lacey, thoughts on the cast?
Well, I was just gonna piggyback off that, because you can't forget that he got onto Pauly Shore for Wheezing the Juice.
Are you talking about Omid Djalili?
No. I'm sorry. Eric Avari.
Oh, Eric Avari. That's right. Okay.
Sorry, I was caught on that because
yeah.
Any other thoughts, Lacey, on the cast?
As far as, everyone's fantastic, but I really do. It's interesting that out of the 6 characters that are listed in this, I really feel like Kevin J. O'Connell. I keep wanting to say O'Connell, but it's O'Connor. Really should be listed, because he is. Like, it would not have been the same movie without his character. His character is and his portrayal of it is so fun. And just. He's just fantastic.
That's
and
awesome.
Don't get me wrong, I love everybody else in the cast. Everyone's fantastic, but I think he really is. Between him and John Hannah, every scene was stolen. John
Hannah, he was the magic component for me in this film. I loved him. I thought he was great.
Mm-hmm.
So this was Kyle's idea for a new category here, is the cast discussion. We're going to continue, but this is the Ocean's 11. You think we should add one more? Who would you add to the cast? And I asked this because one thing that you need to do when you think about this is you got to go back to 1999 or 1980, 1998 when they're casting this film, who was popular. And the top 50 during this time when it comes to billing and or movie money that was being made, number one was Bruce Willis. And you go to like Julia Roberts, Robin Williams, Matt Damon, Nicolas Cage, Pierce Brosnan, Tommy Lee Jones, George Clooney, Ben Affleck, John Travolta. They were in the top 10, right? And then there's familiar names like Mel Gibson, Harrison Ford, Sandra Bullock, Meg Ryan, Gwyneth Paltrow, Al Pacino, and it goes down. Liam Neeson's at 33, Cameron Diaz is at 37, Keanu at 38. And I go down to number 50 where you have Jean Reno from The Professional. But what I did is I found out that Brendan Fraser was on this list, but he was at number 74. So what you have to think about is who would you add to this cast, but that wouldn't like outshine the current cast? Who do you think would be a good complementary addition to it? And I have two suggestions. I have Tobey Maguire, and I have a part for him. He was number 80 on this list. And I had F. Murray Abraham. I thought he would have been good in this film as well. Keep in mind, in 1999, that's when we had Tobey Maguire in Cider House Rules. And then F. Murray Abraham in this picture that we have here was in the movie The Bible Collection, Esther, came out in 1999. I thought Toby would have been a good addition to add to the Americans that were on the hunt. I would love to have seen a younger kid, and maybe if he got killed, it would have been a really kind of cool emotional moment. And F. Murray Abraham, I just see him as something with like maybe the early scene in Egypt, maybe, or like, you know, one of the main followers for Imhotep. These are guys that were like not at the top of the list in 1999, but I felt it could have helped. Haley, I want to go to you. Who do you think would have been a good addition? Do you have an idea?
Geez. I don't. I've been racking my brain. I'm like, who would have done it? But I don't know yet.
All right. What about you, Lacey?
Okay. So I feel like this might be because I just think that if Brendan Fraser and Keanu Reeves did a movie together, it could just be called Movie and people would still go see it.
I think that meme has been flying around. I remember that. Yeah.
Like reading a book together or talking about,
Okay. So if Keanu was in this movie, where would you have put him?
I definitely would have put him in the Oded Fair, what are they called? The Magi
or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he could have been, because he's great with the fighting. He's great with, and he looks good in black. I mean, come on. But I will say this. I think Debbie Mazur would have been cool. He could have been, I don't know, another sibling. It could have been, because she and Rachel Weisz have some similar characteristics, facial characteristics.
Okay.
It could have been maybe someone back in the day, with
like
Arnold Vosloo. I will say this: if it was made today, I want to see Jack Whitehall's character from Jungle Cruise as like a relative of Evie and. And he talks about how, and their family, it's the same general principle. They're going out, treasure hunting and finding, but for good reason, that kind of thing. And I love how
funny.
The Bembridge scholars kind of mirror the concept of her not being allowed, Emily.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I like that. That's cool. I like that. So this is another thing another section we have here is the Tom Selleck was Indiana Jones segment. And yes, he was cast as Indiana Jones, but he couldn't do it because of his contract. So who almost got the role or passed on it? Casting trivia here. And I got some interesting things here. Now, a lot of this comes from like IMDb and the internet. So it depends on when and where. And Stephen Sommers wasn't the first director that was attached to this. There was other people that were also attached to it. So there was other people considered for this part before Stephen Sommers came on. So keep that in mind. Rachel Weisz was the only actress offered the part. Stephen Sommers cast her after seeing her performance in The Land Girls in 1998. Tom Cruise, Brad Pitt, Matt Damon, Ben Affleck, Chris O'Donnell, Matthew McConaughey were considered for the roles of Rick O'Connor. However, director Stephen Sommers maintained that Brendan Fraser was always the first choice. Cruise would later, of course, lead the reboot in The Mummy of 2017. So keep in mind that when Stephen Sommers came on, he's like, Brendan Fraser, that's my guy. But there was one other, yes, Lacey.
Other than Tom Cruise, you just listed the entire cast of School Ties.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah.
Well,
School
yeah.
ties breeded like everyone that was going to
Yeah.
be hot in the next years to come. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah.
Cool. And Matthew
So-
McConaughey.
So there was one actor that wanted this role, and this one surprised me, and this seems to be legit, and that, of course, is Leonardo DiCaprio. Was rumored to have been offered the role as Rick O'Connell. It's believed DiCaprio has said he loved the script and wanted to be in the film. However, he had already agreed to star in The Beach, which came out in 2000. It's also been said that DiCaprio asked if The Beach could be delayed so he could film The Mummy, but producers refused. However, filming for The Beach was delayed anyway. Guys, I think he was too young at the time. Lacey.
Okay, just going off of that concept, if he had managed to get The Mummy, that would have made everything better. like we would have seen Guy Ritchie and Ewan McGregor working together for 20 years, because The Beach is why they stopped talking for 20 years.
Interesting.
Because Leonardo DiCaprio was cast. So if he hadn't been cast, we would have had Ewan McGregor in The Beach and everything would have been hunky-dory, and we would have seen tons more stuff, collaborations between them. I think he's way too young. I don't think that he would have necessarily made a good pairing with Rachel Weisz, because I think that his sensibilities are different. He's a lot like I don't
and he's too young. He was too young at the time, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And yeah,
I don't see his comedy landing either. Like I've never seen him
exactly. That's been one of my biggest isures, that he hasn't done enough comedy.
Not that
He's
he
funny in
can't.
The Wolf and Wall Street.
He's never really tried, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't feel like that.
Haley, you gave me kind of your version of the facepalm when I mentioned Leonardo DiCaprio. What are your thoughts on this?
Okay, out of everybody here, Leonardo DiCaprio, Sylvester Stallone, Matthew McConaughey, Ben Affleck, Chris O'Donnell, Matt Damon, Brad Pitt, and Tom Cruise, the only other person that in my brain would make sense would be Chris O'Donnell. Because that is the only one that I could see not being weird. But yeah, no, Leonardo DiCaprio, I love his roles, but he has this ability to take kind of a semi-serious tone on the movies that I've seen him in, and I like that. And I know that's typecasting, and that happens with actors all the time, but no. If everybody else had been casted as younger actors, sure, maybe, but it just no.
Before we move on from Leo, did you have something, Lacey?
Yeah, I was going to say O'Donnell. I do think O'Donnell could have pulled off the comedy just based on the Three Musketeers that he did 6 years earlier.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, someone did also try out for Rick O'Connell. He didn't get it. Stephen Dunham auditioned for the role of Rick O'Connell. He was rejected, but Stephen Sommers liked his acting so much that he made up the character of Mr. Henderson just for him. And if you're listening to this podcast, he was one of the Americans that was a quick draw with the revolver and had some fun moments in it as well. So, yeah. Okay, guys, next is the fast or not so furious favorite mode of transportation. And I have, of course, the camels. And by the way, there's a little trivia about that, which I thought was kind of funny. The camel was named Barney, was the one that Brendan Fraser was writing. But I think the one that is really cool is this Duesenberg. Was really cool. The yellow Duesenberg just looked really cool. I did a little what is it? This belonged to John Hannah's character, of course, and this was a 1931 Duesenberg Model J. But I did some deep dive, and apparently, they do this a lot in movies where you think you're getting a Ferrari, but you're really just getting a shell on another car's frame or chassis, and so it's not the real thing. And they do that a lot because of costing and if cars get damaged. And apparently, this was put on an old Ford chassis or something kind of fun like that. But boy, did it look cool, Lacey!
Mm-hmm. I dug it.
I'm a sucker for old cars, so
and
very much so.
Yeah, and let's give a shout out to the plane too. The plane was pretty cool. We had a fun scene. There's Captain Winston Havelock's plane to get mentioned, so we have that one as well.
Oded's character on there, just shaking his head. I was like, "Are you okay?" He's like, "This is awesome." He's great.
I will say that my preferred transportation for the whole film would be Sandstorm, because that's so fast. That seems.
So fast you're going to run fast.
Stands in all the places that
Like,
you
let's
don't
go,
want
let's
stand.
go. Yeah, but
Yeah.
you know,
All right, the next category is one of my favorites. It's the Zoolander. They look so hot right now. Favorite costume or fashion moment? And I have some options here, guys. First of all, let's look at our hero here, Rick. Yeah, Brendan Fraser looking kind of adventurous. He's looking good in this. They got his look down. He's got the cool scarf, the white shirt, the suspenders with the holsters and the pants and the boots and everything. Very adventurous. Look good. And I just thought it was a great look for him. And then, of course, you have a few looks here for Rachel Weisz as Evie. I have a favorite that I'll discuss in a moment. And then you got to put out these two here, Oded Ferrer. I mean, dressed in black. I mean, come on. This dude is killing it with the long hair, just looking great. And then, of course, we had Patricia Velasquez as Anouk Su Namun, looking really good there. So I just want to go back to Rachel Weisz. She had few looks in this one, but give me the nerdy librarian look any day, anytime. The way that she was looking inside that library before she wrecked it, I just thought that was hot. Anyway, let's go to you, Haley. What are you thinking? Which one's your favorite? Who had the best Zoolander moment?
Oh, it's definitely Oded.
Yeah, I had the slide ready for you.
Yeah. It's just it's great because you know what? Like traction is not always about like the big muscles and skin showing. Sometimes it's just that subtlety, and it's just, yeah, no, that's hot.
Lacey, what about you? What's your favorite Zoolander moment here?
You know, if you go back 2 slides to the one where Rick's in the middle, and you've got that shot really is like the devil and angel on the shoulders. That's fantastic.
You mean the one with John and Oded side by side, right there?
Exactly,
right
exactly. Yeah. You know, I think that it's one of those things that all of the 6 main characters that you listed, they're all gorgeous, right? And so it's just a matter of which outfit was the best for each one.
So what was yours?
I think for the ladies, I think Patricia Velasquez, I think the confidence that someone has to have to wear an almost entirely painted on outfit.
Yes.
I mean, she's literally wearing paint and jewelry.
Which man touched you?
Right.
Yeah.
She's like, that's phenomenal. Just from the standpoint of like confidence to do that. And she looks amazing. And then for me, like, you know, it's Brendan Fraser. Well, although John Hannah in the all white, he looks great. But it's Brendan. Yeah, it's Brendan Fraser. I'm gonna I have a man crush on Oded, so I'm just gonna admit that right now.
Yeah.
And I have to before I forget too, Lee can make it for this podcast. He wanted to be on this. He is my co-host of our Highlander Blood of Kings podcast. And there's a reboot of Highlander that is slowly happening right now. And he was my choice for the Sean Connery role of the original film as Ramirez. I would have loved to see him as the elder, person that's been around for thousands of years. And I thought Oded would have been perfectly cast for that if we'd done it sooner than later. So yeah, Lacey.
And he also gives good villain. He played Jafar on Once Upon a Time.
Yeah.
He was like he was good. I mean, he gave good villain. I'll just say that.
So the next category is one that I came up with because one of the things when I watch movies is I like moments between two people. And I'm not necessarily saying a romantic way. There's been a lot of arguments, a lot of fights, but I love it when you have good dialogue or moments between two characters. And this is the Harry Met Sally scene. Best scene or moment between two characters. And I threw up mine right now. I love it when we're starting to, when Evie and Rick are starting to learn about each other on the deck of the boat. He's getting his guns ready. She's reading a book. And he goes, "Sorry, didn't mean to scare you." And she goes, "The only thing that scares me are your manners." I love that getting to know you scene. It was just a really kind of honest scene. You're getting to know the characters. And this is when the spark between them kind of starts to get laid. It starts a little bit, And then, of course, then it leads to him throwing her over the boat, which I thought was great. Haley, what moment between two characters did you like the best in The Mummy?
I like when she goes off with Imhotep. And she says, to O'Connell, basically, you better come and get me, or if he turns me into a mummy, I'm going to haunt you. Like, I'm coming after you. And I firmly believe that. I'm like, if people piss me off, like, when I die, I'm coming to haunt you. Sorry.
Yeah. That's a good one. I remember that.
Don't mess with me.
I chuckled at that one. Lacey, what about you? You got a moment between two people, your favorite?
Well, I love the scene with Vosloo and Velasquez where they do, just the hands, that's such a great example of kind of, I don't know. I really like that scene, and it's hard to do a love scene without touching someone.
Yes,
but it just had that, I don't know. And then as far as just two people, the guy with the glasses, the one who lost his eyes and his tongue.
Yes.
Scene where Arnold Vosloo, or the mummy, I don't think he was actually technically Arnold Vosloo yet, but when he's like coming like right close to his head, and Benny's like translating, so it's kind of three people, but it's two because there's a translator. That thing where he says, and he thanks you for your eyes and your tongue, and just that he just starts going like that.
Is the moment with Rick and the cat, is that, threatening Imhotep, is that between two or is it three? I don't know. It's in a room. So
that's a good one. People, man. That's three.
Yeah. The next category we have is, I like romance in films. This is the Salt and Pepper. Let's talk about sex or best romance scene. We really only had one. And that's kind of one of the cool things about this film is the guy gets the girl. And one of the things that I got from that video that I watched of Brendan Fraser talking to the audience in London before they were ready to watch it, he says, have you all seen this? And everyone's like, yeah. And he goes, has anyone not seen this? And one person says, I have not seen this. And he's like, yes. And then he goes, the guy gets the girl. And I have this picture up here. I love this on the camel, and you get the kiss at the end. Wonderful scene. I'm glad it waited. And, there wasn't like any, unnecessary, love making or sex scenes or whatever you want to call it. I just thought it was really sweet. You guys agree? Yes, no?
Mm-hmm.
I will. Yeah. I mean, this is great, but I also do. I mean, like I said, with Arnold Vosloo and Patricia Velasquez at the very beginning, but also you can't overlook John Hannah and the gold.
Yes, that's true. There was a moment.
Yeah.
Sure, yes.
Well, it's the same as Evie in the book. You lost the book. Like only a librarian would be mad that you're leaving everything else, but you've lost the book. And I can kind of relate because I'm a book lover. So I'd be mad.
That's a good one. The next category we have is the best fight scene. And there was a lot. There was a lot in this film. And I just threw up there. I love the fight on the boat between the Magi when they first came. If I'm saying that name, forgive me if I'm not. There's some great moments there, and just pretty much anything where Rick is fighting as well. There's a lot to choose from. Lacey, did you have any best fight scenes?
Well, it's not technically a fight scene, but when Brendan Fraser just flat clocks John Hannah through the jail cell, that's super fun, and it just kind of gives the beginning of that film just kind of that little nudge that it needs for the humor. The humor,
right?
That's kind of the first bit of humor you get. Well, to me anyway. As far as the fights, man, there's so many good ones. I think Eric Avari taking one for the team right before they jump into the sewers. I mean, he he just starts hacking and that's a great. I guess technically it's not a fight because they're zombified or whatever.
Right.
There's not but he probably got eaten.
Haley, there were so many good fight scenes in this. It was tough for me to pick one. But do you have a favorite?
Well, I kind of already mentioned it, with earlier when they were fighting all the mummy priests and then the guards.
That's a great one. Yeah.
I think that one is a really, really well done one, as her brother's trying to read the incantation so that he then in turn. But I think, and again, they're not fight scenes, but at the beginning when we're back centuries and they kill the king essentially is, I think it was so neat because they did it in shadow.
Yeah.
So it
yeah.
wasn't, we didn't witness it aside from the first time he gets stabbed. It's all in shadow. And then kind of the same when we have the guards, when her brother has the guards go after her body. And you don't hear it, you don't see it, but you hear it and it's happening. I think those moments just speak as much volumes as actually witnessing any fight scenes. But I do love the mummy when he clocks the mummy he grabs the hand that's going for the sword, grabs it, and he swipes and he cuts the ankles of the other one who's going to drop like that big concrete tablet on him. And he's like, and he realizes what's going to happen and he just collapses on him.
That is a good one. I forgot about that one. I love that one. That one made me laugh too. So we all know Sean Bean. He gets killed a lot. And one of my favorites is the movie The Field in 1990. He was chased off a cliff by a herd of cows. But we want to talk about the best death scene in this movie, and I got to give it to the turncoat himself, Ben. He gets scarabed to death, but there was a lot of good ones. Lacey, you got any good death scenes?
Ramming yourself into a wall head first, that's a rough ending. Like you got to be going through something severe on the inside to knock yourself dead running into a wall. I feel like that's a solid. That
was which character? Let the listeners know.
The guard, the prison warden.
Yeah.
And Haley, can you pronounce his name again? I always mess up the last name.
I know. I feel like it's Omid Jalali.
Jalali, yeah.
Yes.
He's so smart. It was. Yeah,
that was a tough way to go. I'm like, dude, did you just really do that? Haley, what about you? You have a good death scene in this?
Well, it's a death scene, but it's not a death scene because until the end, like the first time I saw this movie, I thought Oded's character died when he goes off and fights all the mummies. He's like, just go do what you need to do. And he, and so like, that was a good quote death scene because I thought he was dead.
Because he was being honorable, Yeah. So it's a good way to go out. Yeah. Okay.
And apparently he wasn't supposed to live. If you listen to the commentary, they had planned on just killing him off. And it turned out that everyone loved him so much. And the test screenings, everybody was like, wait, what happened? What? No. And so
bring him back. He was way too handsome to die. So
yes.
So this movie had a great score, guys. And this is the Kenny Loggins or John Williams best use of music or song in a film. And this, of course, music was by Jerry Goldsmith. He's done lots of stuff, lots of Star Trek too, by the way. So I wanted to, it was tough for me to pick one particular scene. I loved how things opened up as well. That was a good part of the score. I couldn't choose. So Haley, I'm gonna go with you because you're a musician as well. Did you have a moment of music that you really enjoyed in this film?
I think I like the openings, the very first bit. All the music at the very beginning of the film kind of sets the tone for the rest of the movie. The tension is built just correctly as far as like the sound effects in movie score when the mummy is coming and he's there, like the one guy before after his eyes and tongue are taken and Evie stumbles upon him, but like all the music, like you can tell something's going to happen, but you're not exactly sure how. So I think it works really well. But that opening sound is really wonderful. I like the music at the beginning.
There were some chilling moments, like the Imhotep stuff that was good. I think the evil priests had a good moment of music too. Lacey, what about you? Did any music stand out to you?
Yes, the shot you see where the plane takes off and that kind of like gold kind of in my head.
Charge!
I kind of just have the Indiana Jones theme now, so I can't recreate it. But it was just that kind of like dun, 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 kind of big kind of music. We're coming. We're coming. Hey, kind of
that was a good moment. Yeah. All right, the next one, and a little tribute to Godzilla -1, who won for Best Special Effects Oscar this last year. The Are You Sure That Wasn't Real Best Special Effects scene. And I had to throw up some scenes of the mummy. Now, of course, we look back now, and it does feel a little dated compared to what was been out since, but it still holds up for me. I love the mummy scenes, especially when they're up close and Imhotep's talking to our heroes. and you get that up close personal feel, which also made it extra creepy. I also love the location shots too. I love that scene of the Port of Giza, and across the river you see the 3 pyramids and what it looked like back in the 20s. And then of course going back to ancient Egypt did a great job as well. Haley, what were some of your favorite special effects scenes?
Yeah, I think to this day, anytime, like when he's walking and he's almost completely resurrected and he eats the bugs,
Yes,
fall through his jaw, and then he just like, and I'm like, whoa!
He's like chomping them like gummy bears, you know?
Oh, it's so gross. I think that yes, it holds up. I think, and yes, I have like a kiddo client that would be like, oh, blah blah blah, because it's they watch all new stuff, and I don't like to compare apples to oranges. So I think it holds up really well, and I'm the same way. I love how they kind of recreated ancient Egypt, and they did really, really well. Like that opening palace scene is just really well done, and I love that.
Lacey, what about you? You had any special effects moments that you liked?
Hey, you nailed it. It's all of them are great, but like the one close up where he's standing there and it's just like the one little piece of his mouth that's still missing, and the scarab kind of crawls over into his mouth, and he just does that like one chomp. Like, first of all,
that was so effective. It was just like that was so less is more moment. Just
but
worked.
In my brain, I'm thinking like, did they just have like a green patch right here, and then he just makes it seem silly if you dissect it, but it was so good and so gross.
We like to talk a little action scenes here and stunt scenes here, and this is the Fall Guy Award for best action or stunt scene here, and I threw some out there. The opening battle scene, of course, I thought was good with the charge, and then the boat scene, which is actually my favorite. I love all that scene going on there. And then, of course, again, when we get our heroes down in the tombs, is another one I threw up here on the slides. Lacey, go back to you here. What are some of your favorite action or stunt scenes?
Honestly, the first, it's not even, they don't even actually get to fight, but it's just the comic of it all, where the two teams kind of run into each other the first time when they're everybody's like this, and then kind of go down, and everybody's like this. It's kind of fun.
That was a good one.
I will go with the final, like the final battle. Where you've got the priests, and basically everything that Haley just said about the with the guy and the and dropping it and hitting the legs and all. Yeah, it's fantastic.
What about you, Haley? Favorite action or stunt scene?
I like the race to get into Hamunaptra when they're running and fighting, like they're running, and it's just so funny because I'm like, yeah, of course the girl's gonna win because she's the one who knows how to get the camel, and the boys are so busy fighting and trying to like get each other off their camels that like they're just not even paying attention. I thought that was great.
That's a good one there.
That's the rule, man. If you're in a film if there's a woman in a film in the 1930s and it's set in the 1930s, she'll be ignored and always succeed.
Yep. The Star Wars Twin Sons favorite filming location or set piece. The Hamunaptra scene I thought was great, especially with the battle. Really, really cool. Of course, one of the things I did want to mention too, this obviously takes place in Egypt, but a little trivia here, the crew could not shoot in Egypt because of the unstable political conditions. So most of these shots were shot in Morocco. I thought this was great. I really love the library scene with all the library things falling down. That was a really well done set piece as well. Haley, back to you. What were some of your favorite set pieces?
I do like when they're filming in Hamunaptra. I think that is really wonderful, and I love all the desert scenes when they're filming out in Morocco. And I think I was reading they did film a little bit in the Sahara Desert, and people got dehydrated. But I really enjoy those scenes. I think they're really well done. It's nice to see something other than Vasquez Rocks.
It's true. Lacey, what about you? Your favorite filming set location?
As far as locations go, I think that the set deck in the hotel was phenomenal. Like the like even the main floor where you've got the bar and everything, and the big the fountain, and then even in the rooms where you have the exterior room and the bedrooms and stuff. I mean, it's just the the detail and attention to the just those minuscule details is really, really fantastic.
Oh, when I look back at that, yeah, you're right. That was a
Mhm.
really good location, good set
I mean,
piece.
that's back when you actually in the 30s, like you could actually rent a room in a hotel and you'd have a piano in your room.
Back in
And
the
that's
day,
not necessarily going to be like the fancy. That's not like the bridal suite or the executive suite. That's just one of the rooms, you know.
One of my favorite categories we have here is the if you were a non-speaking extra on set, what scene would you want to be in? I threw up a couple of my options here. I love the battle in the beginning with the Foreign Legion guys and the horde of army coming towards them. And I have a picture up there, and you have Benny and of course Rick there. I would want to be one of those guys next to him. I thought that'd be kind of cool because you get next to the heroes. I also like I would love to be part of the Imhotep followers that are going Imhotep, and I love how Benny like starts like blending into the crowd, and he realizes he starts doing
Or
that.
brother.
Yeah, that would have been a fun scene to be part of. Haley, what where would you have liked to have been an extra? What scene would you like to see yourself in?
Can I be an extra that works in the library?
Yes. Oh, you could be you could be the other librarian going, "What the hell did you just do?"
I'd
You
have the face on. I wouldn't even have to
Yeah.
say anything. It would just be like the yeah, because
like
I
that.
think that really is the only safe place to be, because I don't want boils and sores, and I don't want to die out in the desert. So I'm going with librarian.
All right. What about you, Lacey? Where'd you want to be?
There's a scene where you see John Hannah. It was a picture you showed a few, like 3 or 4 slides back. It's John Hannah and and Brendan Fraser and Oded Fair, and they're all firing the guns at the same
Right.
time. And I'm happy to be a gun on the wall. I mean, a fly on the wall. Just to like that had to have been an amazing.
You wanted to be a mummy. That's what you wanted to be.
Sure. Yep. Yep. Absolutely. I want to see that happen. That was like, yeah, awesome.
I love that. That's great. The next category we have is a fun one. If you have any pet peeves about this movie or the Luke and Leia kiss cringeworthy moment, and Imhotep just laying one there on Evie, that one's a little creepy right there, especially the look on her face. That was my vote. Haley, what about you? Do you have a creep moment or any pet peeves about this film?
Yeah, anything with the bugs. Like, I'm so glad that like Benny's light goes out before all the bugs get him. I mean, we still hear it, but
Okay, I'm glad you brought that up for a second. I want to ask you guys something related to that. So one of the things, when you look back at the way they were showing how the bugs are crawling underneath their skin and all around, that effect looks dated, but the effect it has on you imagining that happening to you is creepy AF still for me. And every time when I see that happen for the first time on that one character, I go, oh my God. And then when you see other people get it, it is cruel.
And that's why he ran head first into the wall. The bug was in his head eating his brain, and I would run head into the wall too. Ugh.
Lacey, you have a creep moment or a pet peeve?
I think the scene with the guy with the eyes where he's thanking him for his he thanks you for your hospitality and he thanks you for your eyes and your tongue, like just that look on his face where it gives Sigourney Weaver with the alien is what it gives. Like it really does, because he's just like and it's just that that's like that. Yep. Nope. Thank you.
All right, so think about this, guys. This is 1999 when this comes out. I gave you a list of some of the most popular actors and actresses in the time. This is the Titanic I'm King of the World career moment. Was an actor in this movie at the top of their career, or was anything else from this movie trending or newsworthy or tabloid popular when this movie was released? And we could argue that Brendan Fraser was probably, this movie really pushed him into the stratosphere. You could say the same for Rachel Weisz. She really got noticed in this. Arnold as well. He started popping up as villains. He's in one of my favorite Van Damme films, Hard Target, is a wonderful villain. Oded Fair, oh my God. His first main film probably did wonders for him as well. Do you guys think I'm on the same plane here? Get it? Same plane here? Anyway, Haley, what about you? Who had a king of the world moment in this movie, you think?
I really think Rachel Weisz did.
Yeah.
This really took her career off. I really loved. She did The Fountain, The Constant Gardener. She did Oz the Great and Powerful. Those are just some of the films that I have really enjoyed seeing her in. If you haven't seen at least The Fountain or The Constant Gardener, definitely check those out. I think those are really wonderful films that she's in. If you're into really weird and obscure movies, she did one that we watched recently, The Lobster.
Yes.
I will just leave it at that because I don't even know what to say about it. But I'm really glad that
she's married to Daniel Craig, so there's that going for her as well.
Yes.
So, yeah.
And so I think that really, really helped. It was great.
Lacey, what about you? Who's having a king of the world moment here, or what?
I think everyone is. I mean, all of a sudden, Patricia Velasquez was, on. I mean, she got like all of a sudden, every billboard, every perfume, every makeup company, she was everywhere, and she had several, movies offers and all this kind of. It was, and you've got Arnold Vosloo, like you said, started showing up in. As baddies in all the different places. And Brendan Fraser, John Hannah, he started, he had done a fair amount of stuff before this, but I think this solidified his just his ability to react to any situation because he's so good in it. And it's not something you normally put into an action film.
Yeah.
So and his career since has been fantastic. He's done so many fun things. So
good point. All right, guys. If you got a aliens nuke it from orbit hot take, I'm going to give you mine. Maybe it's not a hot take, but I think it is. So when Raiders of the Lost Ark came out, there was the wannabes that were made after it. You had the Alan Quartermain, Richard Chamberlain films. You had those, City of Lost Gold, that type of things. You had people trying to recreate the Indiana Jones feel, and I think they finally did it with the Mummy, because if you think about it too, even though the sequels are about mummies, you could put Brendan Fraser's character in almost any situation, in any type of adventure type of situation, and I would buy it. I would be there first day of the movie when it came out. I think that they did a good job with the way he looks without ripping off anyone. His look was something you would see back in those days. Because I think the setting of where it was perfect for like when Indiana Jones did. But they started it earlier than Indiana Jones, which I thought was even cooler. So when I look back on this, I'm going, the one movie that captures the essence of Indiana Jones, The Mummy did it and did it perfectly. Anyone else have a hot take?
I kind of said mine before already. I think that I would like to think that Jungle Cruise and The Mummy are in the same universe. Okay. Characters are somehow related.
Yeah, I like that.
I feel like John Hannah and Jack Whitehall's characters are so like Jack Whitehall is. I think he's definitely on the rise, and I think that character is a good basis. Like, kind of came from. I don't know. I just feel like they're very, very similar. He's similar to John Hannah's character. Yeah.
By the way, I have The Mummy playing in the background here, and that scene with Arnold eating the little bug that comes through his cheek just came on, and I just got. I mean, he must have took some really good direction from Stephen Sommers on, like, look, just pretend this thing just crawled through your cheek and you just chewed it from the inside. He nailed it. It was great. Okay, guys. Now, these are two different segments, but they're kind of merged into the same one here because, well, we always have the what happens the next day or what if, but we kind of know what happened. Obviously, the guy gets the girl. And then it goes into the sequels, and there's Lacey. Lacey, stay right there where you are. I want to showcase that again real quick here of the collection. The collection. No, you had it right.
They were upside down.
The Mummy 1999 movie genre there, and of course, how many Scorpion Kings were there?
I think there were 5. I've got 1 through 4. I think there's a 5th one that I don't have yet. I'm pretty
sure. We're not going to go all over those, but we did have the main 3. We had The Mummy Returns, and I have my DVD copy of The Mummy Returns as well. Then we got the prequel, The Scorpion King, because you got to see, of course, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson in The Mummy Returns. You get a little kind of preview of that. And then we get, after the Scorpion King, we get the Mummy with Jet Li, Tomb of the Dragon Emperor. And I wanted to get your guys' thoughts on these movies that came out. I'm just, we're not going to talk about the Scorpion King sequels that came out. Obviously, those are mostly direct to video. But we had The Mummy Returns, which we learned that Rachel Weisz was Nefertiti. We get a little background on her on that. But we get most of the main cast returning. We get Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, of course, as the Scorpion King. And then when you get to the Scorpion King, of course, you have Stephen Brand as Memon, Michael Clark Duncan as Balthazar, Kelly Hugh as a sorcerer, Bernard Hill as Philos, and some other notable actors. And then you get the third part of the trilogy, which takes place after World War II. Now, in the Mummy Returns, you see that they have a kid. He's like 10 years old, and I just want to say for the record, I thought he was very funny. He wasn't annoying. I thought the kid, had some moments in it, especially when he was captured. But in the third film, he's in his early 20s, and he's doing the same stuff his dad is doing. And of course, this takes place after World War II, and of course, you're in China with Jet Li. Michelle Yeoh is in this as well. Maria Bello, though, replaces Evelyn O'Connor, and that's one of the issues that I had with this film. I love Maria Bello, but I did not like that. We did not have our Evie come back. So I want to get your guys' thoughts here on the sequels and prequels. And Lacey, I'm going to start with you.
Okay, so I felt like the second one, Mummy Returns, is good. But when I first watched it, I did have minor issues with the fact that they had several recreations from the first film.
Right.
The first opening, you have the cavern where the kid knocks over all the things, and it's just like it's a recreation of the library scene from the first film. I think that the sand that was in the first film, the sand, whatever, was recreated as water in the second film. And it just seemed like they kind of said, okay, what worked in the first film just for cool stuff. Like we had some, it was like they did a focus group and said, what were your favorite bits? And people said this and this, and they just said, okay, tick, 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 and checked off all the things to recreate. Even the very end, not to, spoilers, but with the reading the book and from the far and then getting the pronunciation wrong, it was a remake of the original Mummy. I mean, it was set in a different place and you had a different guy and flying, instead of a plane, he had a dirigible, but I mean, it was pretty similar.
Rachel Weisz gets the big kind of reveal in this, though, which I found kind of interesting.
Yeah, but I think that they kind of slacked off on giving it its own flavor instead of because they recreated 4 scenes come to the top of off the top of my head. 4 scenes were exact, and
they showed scenes from the original Mummy to kind of set certain stuff up as well. Yeah,
but it just seemed like you didn't have to have a recreation of those 4 different scenes. It just seemed odd and seemed like kind of lazy writing, kind of whatever. Scorpion King was fun. Mummy, Tomb of the Dragon Emperor. I mean, is that right? Dragon? Yeah. I enjoyed Tomb of the Dragon Emperor. I liked seeing that they were older. I liked seeing that they had a kid that was actually older. I liked seeing him jumping into, the family business kind of deal. I think the Yeti thing was silly, but just funny enough to cover some of the lack of, because again, I love Maria Bello as well, but I don't think she had the same timing.
No, she did not.
And which it's just a different take on it, which is fine. But when you're used to someone, it's hard to take over a role. I mean, it really is. Okay. So for what she did, it's awesome. But I feel like the Yeti lines and all the thing, you speak Yeti, that seemed like that was trying to cover.
Yeah, the Yetis are where you kind of lost me as well. But the movie had some moments, but definitely for the third one. And also, I didn't like the fact that Jet Li was a villain that wasn't likable too. So that was another thing I had with it. But so let me ask you, out of those 3, is the remake, reboot, sequel, prequel, is it couch potato worthy? Which would you join a couch potato theater for one of those 3?
I would probably put any one of them into a same save from Oblivion. I don't know that they are couch potato worthy.
Okay. All right.
I'm not saying I wouldn't be on the couch potato if you did one, but I feel like there would be a conversation to be had.
Okay. All right. Haley, have you seen all three of these?
I remember seeing The Mummy Returns, and I think I've only seen it once, and I don't remember when. I have not seen the other two, and I didn't even know there was that many Scorpion Kings. So I remember being super impressed with The Mummy Returns. Again, moments that were great, but overall, I wasn't super impressed. Like it kind of falls into that like 80s sequel isn't as good as the first one. Why did you make it? Just because you could doesn't mean you should kind of category for me. So I probably wouldn't want to sit and talk about it. If it was on, I might watch it again simply just because I'd be like, I don't even remember watching this.
Right. You know, it's interesting because I used to think about that with The Mummy Returns, but I recently watched them all back to back. And I felt like doing it that way, doing a double feature of The Mummy and The Mummy Returns feels natural to me. And The Mummy Returns obviously is not as good, but it has its great funny moments and enough to where, you know, there's some, you learn more about the background and, you know, with Rachel Weisz's character. And I thought there were some really fun moments as well. I love the dirigible scene as well. I thought that was kind of cool. When I watched The Scorpion King, you know, I think it was you, Lacey, that you just said that there were some scenes that The Mummy Returns kind of recreated. The Scorpion King was nice because it was only like an hour and a half long, but they borrowed the idea from Indiana Jones 2 of the big round thing, using it as a shield while as it's rolling. I thought that was kind of funny. But I love Dwayne The Rock Johnson. I thought he was good in that. But it was nice that it was kind of a short little thing here. But I out of The Mummy, of course, the Dragon Emperor falls short for a lot of reasons. There's a few kind of cute moments in it, but it's not a great film. But I would do a couch potato theater definitely on The Mummy Returns. Lacey.
I would also like to say that my complaints aside, I do still love the movies. Like I just think that they may have like, you know, dropped the ball a little bit with the repetition.
Yeah.
I still will watch them all. Like that's not even a question. If any of them are on, I will still watch them. Also, I would love for them to all come back and do 6 more. Like Brendan Fraser and Imhotep there and John Hannah and anybody, like, you know, Brendan Fraser has said that he would absolutely come back. A lot of people have said they would absolutely come back.
Yeah.
I think if they could find a good story that didn't involve Yetis or repetition, it would be amazing.
Yeah. And they don't have to do a mummy. They could do something else, you know. That'd be kind of fun.
I mean, you know, just something in the same world, maybe. I dig it. Yeah, I would watch. Yeah, and we could definitely throw Keanu Reeves in there with them because
there you go.
Let's get a movie with Brendan Fraser and Keanu Reeves, like the internet's boyfriend and the other internet's boyfriend. They're like this. Yeah, I just need to see a movie with the two of them.
Guys, let's go ahead and wrap things up. All right, let's give your final thoughts on The Mummy, 1999. As of this recording, it is celebrating its 25th anniversary. Boy, it seems like a long time ago. And it was so much fun to revisit this and rewatch this. Haley, you threw your hand up first on this. Give us your final thoughts on The Mummy.
You know, this is an enjoyable film that just takes me back to when I was in high school and going to movies lots with friends and just being able to sit down for a couple hours and enjoy something that has humor and action and love and just really great fight scenes. A little scary, but not super scary because I don't like horror movies. So this was like perfect and up my alley aside from the bugs. Should sit down and watch it if you haven't watched it. I think Chloe, when it was on, that was the first time she'd watched it. So, and she really enjoyed it.
What did she like? I'm kind of curious what Chloe thought.
She enjoyed it. She likes it. She thought it was a really good fun movie because I've shown her, you know, Indiana Jones. We've watched those.
Did she have any favorite parts or anything that she talked about?
No, not necessarily. We didn't sit and kind of discuss it because, again, this was like a few months ago that we watched it. But she thought it was really fun and she really liked it.
And how old is she?
She's 17.
Okay.
17, there you go.
So
all right, Lacey.
Nice.
Lacey, give us your final thoughts on The Mummy.
Love the purse, love the shoes, love everything. It's fantastic. It's one of my favorites.
Yeah, it's one of those that I've told myself after watching it for the first or recently that it's one I need to revisit more. And I remember I watched it more back in the day when I was missing new Indiana Jones movies. And we have a special guest here. Did your special guest get rid of The Mummy for us? Who is this, Haley?
I did. It helps. This is Starry. And look what I found.
That is your very fluffy kitty. I love it. She's so cute. Starry.
Now she's mad.
If you're watching the video, you got to check out how adorable that cat was. That was great. All right, guys, let's go ahead and wrap things up here. This is the Fandom Podcast Network, and you have been listening to and watching the Couch Potato Theater, The Mummy 1999 podcast. Please follow us on YouTube. If you're watching us on YouTube, thank you very much. Please subscribe, though. Share us out. Leave us a comment. We appreciate it. If you're listening to this podcast, please give us some reviews and hit us up, of course, on YouTube. We would love some more subscriptions and give us some love in the comments. Like I said, our master feed for all of our audio podcasts can be found at fpnet.podbean.com. Facebook, we're under Fandom Podcast Network. Email fandompodcastnetwork@gmail.com. And the Fandom Podcast Network is also on Instagram and X. You can find Kyle on X at AKyleW, Instagram and Threads at AKyleFandom, and at AKyleW on Discord, and KSport16 on Letterboxd. My name is Kevin. You can find me at X, Instagram, Threads, Discord, Letterboxd, all at Spartan_Phoenix. Haley, you are on with us, of course, on Union Federation podcast. How can people find you?
You can find me on Blue Sky. You can find me on Instagram and in Discord at Trekkie01D.
Awesome. And Lacey, where can we find you other than here on the Fandom Podcast all the time and on Time Warp?
I'm basically on all of the places, the Facebooks and the Threads and the Blue Sky and is it Big Sky or Blue Sky? I don't even know.
Blue Sky.
Letterboxd. I'm Lacy Pants on all of them with the exception of Instagram where I am the Lacy Pants.
Awesome. All right. Well, Haley, first of all, thank you so much for wanting to come on here. Appreciate you talking some Mummy with me. Appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you.
And Lacey, as always, looking forward to I'm going to be seeing you soon in person. And I love your t-shirt here. It says, I really hope Brendan Fraser is having a good day. I love that. That is a great t-shirt. Until next time, we will see you on the couch. Thank you, everyone. Goodbye. And watch out for them mummies. See you guys.